This program is made possible with the support from Midland Education Foundation, Community National Bank, Diamondback Energy, ConocoPhillips, and Lissa Noel Wagner.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Jay Hendricks. Midland has seen a lot of growth, as you heard John Mesh telling you in the story you just saw and the story we saw, from a one-room schoolhouse in 1885 for 64 students at 40 campuses and over 29,000 students, representing around 50 different languages, and the growing hasn't stopped. Midland ISD now employs, get ready for this, over 3,300 staff that work tirelessly, not only for our community, but for our students as well. And not only do they teach, but they truly get to know their students. Teachers, staff not only teach for today, but they also prepare for tomorrow. Very important. I'm Jay Hendricks, coming to you from the Basin PBS Anwar Family Studio, and thank you for joining us. Tonight, we are going to continue this discussion. We're going to talk about schools. We're going to talk about why education is important and how it helps to shape and form our communities. We'd also like to thank our sponsors. Bear with me as I read all of those. Lissa Wagner, Diamondback Energy. We want to thank the Midland Education Foundation, companies like ConocoPhillips, Community National Bank, for generously supporting tonight's program. Joining me here in the Basin PBS Anwar Family Studio is this group right here. We're going to start first with Stan Van Hooser, former principal of Lee High School. Welcome.
Thank you.
Next, we are going to continue with our introductions, and right after him, we are going to go now with Tina Ortez. She is a former teacher and a bond committee member. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next to her is Wes Torres, the executive director of athletics for Midland ISD. He's been a coach. Some of you probably know him. Wes, welcome.
Thank you.
Right next to Wes is the troublemaker. I've heard this all night. Bo Garcia, the executive director of fine arts for Midland ISD. Bo, you know I'm joking with you. We're going to talk with him about, of course, fine arts as well throughout this evening. And, of course, our superintendent, Dr. Stephanie Howard, superintendent for Midland ISD. She is going to join us as well. And I want to thank all of you for joining us here. We're just going to have a little conversation, and we want to thank all of you to talk about the importance of public education. And we saw in the video kind of how we grew to where we are now. And every, I think, community probably has the same story, how they started and got going. A lot of you have dedicated your careers to education. So right off the bat, I want to ask you what led you to become an educator? I'm going to start with you, Dr. Howard.
Sure, so I'll go first. I kind of alluded to that earlier. I actually grew up in a family of educators. Dad taught and coached. Mom worked at the schools, drove a bus, worked in the cafeteria, was a custodian. So at 17, I was determined not to go into education because growing up in a small town, that's what everyone thinks you'll do is be a teacher. So I went to college, second year in school, had a great English professor and thought maybe I want to be a teacher. So changed my major, and then, this is now year 31 that I'm finishing. Wouldn't trade it for the world. Started out teaching and coaching, and then moved in, to administration and here today as the superintendent. What keeps me in the profession, I love the work that we do. You heard stories tonight. I want to thank our team that's here tonight, the people we work with every day, the support we have from the community, and most importantly, the students that we get to serve. And looking back at that history of how some of our students years ago were educated, I think the common theme there was educators that make a difference. Someone made a difference in their lives, almost everyone you heard tonight. So the opportunity to do that, the opportunity to advocate for our students and stand up for them, and most importantly, make sure they're getting what they need in the classroom.
Stan, I think I'd ask you the same thing as a administrator. Tell me about what led you to get into that role. I think you did some coaching too, is that right?
No, I never coached.
You never coached? I thought you did. Okay.
I didn't want to be a teacher either.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
My older brother and his wife, they were both teachers, and I didn't want to be like them. I got an accounting degree. I spent 17 years in the business world, but in the early 90s, there were layoffs going on, and I had finally matured a little bit in life, and I saw how well they were doing and how much they enjoyed what they were doing. School, I wasn't a great student at school. I was a C student at best. I never dreamed I would get into education. But in '92, I went back to school to get a post-baccalaureate in history, so I could teach history. I could have taught business with my accounting degree, but accounting was boring. That's why I got out. So I got into teaching and found I had a gift for that, and I really enjoyed being around. I was always in high schools. The high school kids, I always had a great time teaching them. I could make up stuff and they would believe it. But I had Principal Dan Green at Lee Freshman, where I had first started teaching. He encouraged me because I didn't start teaching until I was 40. And he encouraged me to get into administration. And so I got into administration and spent 6 years here in Midland teaching, and then moved to the Dallas area, where I was in the Dallas area for 15 years. And I spent 11 of those as an administrator and assistant principal in the Dallas ISD, and then moved back to Midland to be principal at Midland Lee, which a lot of people would have lost money on that, to think that I would have been the one that have come back and to be a principal at Lee. But it was the most rewarding thing I did in my life, was being an educator, and I'm proud of that. And I take up for educators all the time. It's a hard job.
Yeah.
It's not as easy as people think. And I loved my time in education.
Tina, you've been a teacher. Do you agree with him? Is it harder now than it ever was?
Oh, I think it's harder now. I remember when he started, I was at Lee Freshman, teaching at Lee Freshman, and I always wanted to be a teacher. I just knew, for like third grade, I knew I'm going to be a teacher when I grow up. And I had amazing teachers. I did. And Mr. Van Hooser was a great teacher. I mean, the kids loved him. I coached, and I loved coaching. My dad was my teacher that taught me how to do all the stuff, coaching. And so, yeah, I loved it. I knew I was going to, that's what I wanted to do. When I graduated with a degree in English. I got married and moved to College Station with my husband, and he finished school. It was a bust. He was an engineer, petroleum engineer. We moved back, and there was nothing. I was like, I'm getting a job. And I went in, and Mr. Cooper hired me, and he said, we need a Spanish teacher. Do you think you can teach Spanish? I said, I can do that. So I went to school at night, got my certification for Spanish, and loved it. It was like teaching English in Spanish, and I loved it. So, and I coached and taught dance, which I had never in my life had a dance class. That was back in the day when MTV was on, and we would learn. So we would, Paula Abdul would be dancing, and we taught our dance. Oh, we had a great time, and coaching, it was amazing. I just had so much fun, and made even today see kids that they're already 50. I'm like, oh my gosh, y'all are getting old. But yeah, I still see them today and have good rapport with them still.
You may have started a craze with the dancing to the videos, and now they're all popular. We're going to kind of transfer here and talk about how the number of community partners MISD has. A lot of philanthropy in our community that helps out, and it's astounding, I'm sure. And let's talk about how those partners support MISD as a whole. And I'm going to start with actually both of you, but let's start first with Bo. Let's talk about the importance of these donors that help us out, because especially for you, we're talking equipment, we're talking uniform. There's a lot that we have to get.
Sure, yeah. One of the great things about our community is we're a small big town, I guess you could say, and we have people that span the whole gamut of, family members knowing this person, and so it's those connections that we create. One of the beautiful things about our music community is that a lot of us play in the symphony, a lot of us are out in the communities in Midland, Odessa, and we're trying to just share what we love. But I love how our donors see that and they want to give back to us. One of the really wonderful things that's happened to us most recently is we've been in a time of Midland where there are some instruments that possibly need a little more love, maybe a little less duct tape. And we've been using those instruments, and our students have been out on those marching fields, in the concert halls, and doing great things, but we've needed a change. And so the Education Foundation, along with FMH, partnered and helped us, and we got a $1 million grant to get all new band orchestra instruments for our students. And you'll see some of those sousaphones out on the marching field, real shiny and pretty. And we are so fortunate to have those relationships, but I think it's really giving back to the future. You know, when I was a kid, I just dreamed of seeing some great things on the stage, and now in this setting you get to see it on the field, on the stage. You get to see it in small groups and big groups, but you know, our people are very generous here in Midland.
And those sousaphones, we called them tuba, and that's what I played.
Yes.
They always had dents. They never shut. You know, it was just it's what you had.
Absolutely. It's a tuba player.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about athletics, Wes, if you will, please, because a lot of that funding is obviously very important so that you can continue the season. This is every sport.
Yeah, and so we are blessed in Midland. You know, I tell folks when, you know, I moved here, one thing that was different for me was just the community involvement. You know, coming from Amarillo and a couple of other small towns, you have involvement, but here there's involvement and there's support financially as well. I think the community really wants to see our programs succeed. We're blessed to have sound budgets where we're able to take care of our student athletes, and we look good, we play well. But our parents and our booster clubs, they want to help, and they're always looking for ways to supplement, you know. And so we always like to think of our booster clubs as the, you know, icing on the cake, right? Sure. We provide what they need, and they want to go above and beyond. We have a lot of major productions. You know, Friday night football. You know, those of you that have been to those games. I mean, that's I didn't understand as a high school basketball coach of 21 years what it took to put on a Friday night football game. You know, you have over 100 workers and just everybody that's involved that you've got to prepare to make sure that everything goes right on Friday night. And that takes a lot of financial support. We're blessed with several partners in our community. Rogers Ford has been one of the, you know, Dawson, his group have been great. And so we're blessed to have those guys that want to step up and help. And, you know, I think when the community sees that you put out a good product, they come out. I've gotten several emails over the last year and a half of, you know, what can we do? We want to help. And little did I know when I got into education and into the athletic administration role that marketing and you know, that was going to be part of the job. I never guessed that. Even, you know, working on my master's degree, that wasn't part of the training. I promise you that. But you know, it's where we are. But Midland makes it easier.
It's in there. It's good to have
Yes, sir.
the folks that we do have here. Let's talk about school in general. You mentioned being a C student.
Yes.
Math was not my specialty. I wish someone had taken the time to teach me how to do algebra. They didn't teach me how to do. If somebody would just said, this is how it works, I might have been better. So I was always at intro classes. I'm sure we all probably had our challenges here. As a teacher, how do you get to those students who you know are struggling, and how do we get them to learn that they can do this?
First, you have to realize, you have to look at them. You have to figure out who needs help. Like when I taught Spanish, when I first started, it wasn't required. So I had the top kids that wanted to go to college, and it was required to go to college. So I'd have amazing kids. Then it was required, 2 years of a foreign language. So I'd had the number 1 kid in the class and the number 800 kid in the class. And so I would be like, oh my gosh, because this kid was like this, like Miss Yarbrough said, this is boring. And then I finally I figured out how to group them together, a little bit of everybody, you know, smart, not so smart, not smart at all. Put them all together.
Right, in the same classroom.
And in groups, and then the guy that knew it would help the other one, and then they would just pick up. So you have to know your kids. You have to learn who is the smartest pencil in there and who's the dullest, and put them together and work. And it's work, but you can do it. I mean, it's possible, and you bring them all up together.
I wish she'd have been there to teach me math, but
No,
I didn't
you
need
don't.
it after all.
Not math.
Oh, you don't know math?
Well, the one thing she said that's the most important is you've got to know your kids.
Yeah.
And I was just like you. I was good with numbers. When they started putting X's and Y's in there, I had no clue.
Right.
I couldn't teach a kid algebra if I had to. But I would always tell my teachers, and Tina and Bo were teachers for me at Lee, that I had a math teacher that let me sit in the back of the room and do nothing. And at the time, that was great. But because of that, I still don't know algebra. And I didn't want our teachers to allow a kid to do that. I mean, kids will do that if you let them. But we're not doing those kids any favor if we let, and that's one of the biggest changes I think in education, is that involving kids, making sure, checking for understanding, making sure that all kids are following along and know and have a chance to show you that they understand. And that all comes from knowing your students.
You mentioned that, and we're going to transition now because times have changed, okay? Gone are the erasers and chalkboards. We now have smart boards and computers. We have handheld devices. How has this change affected the way we teach and interact with these students? And how have we embraced this technology? It's got to be a challenge also when you're hiring teachers. You must have to find those that know how to deal with these devices.
So, I think back during my time as an assistant principals when technology was really coming on board. We might have been a little slower getting technology in Midland back then. But one of the things that was evident from the beginning is just adding technology into the classroom did not improve instruction. And so we worked really hard back then, and we continue to work on it now, that technology enhances education. And so thinking about, you can put all the devices in the world in a classroom, but without an effective teacher, it doesn't matter. And so, and then how does that effective teacher utilize technology? What technology does for us, it allows us to assess students. It allows us to take them on a personalized learning plan. Because Tina talked about, you have students of all different preparedness levels in your classroom, and it's very difficult for any one teacher to take 30 students in a classroom, some are here, and make sure they're all getting what they need. And so utilizing technology in that way, not as a replacement for instruction, but when we're reinforcing the learning, can be very effective. And so just like with anything, whether that chalkboard back in the day, just having a chalkboard in the class didn't make instruction good either. The technology has to be utilized in an appropriate way and in a way that increases engagement and enhances learning.
The good news is you don't have to clean them.
Now everyone's allergic to chalk.
Everybody's allergic to chalk. For coaching, let's talk about, you would have to have somebody shoot your game film. I'll come back to you. Shoot game film, all this kind of stuff. Now, technology is so much different. So how has that changed it?
It is. It's funny, when I first started coaching, this is year, 27 for me. I was the youngest on staff, and the youngest on staff always during football season. You loaded up on Saturday morning, got in the school Suburban, and you met someone, typically being from the Panhandle area, you met at a Dairy Queen, and you exchanged film. The problem with that is you better hope that what you received and what you were taking back to your head coach, there was something on there. Right. Because if you didn't, then you were in trouble. And that happened to me once, and there was not a way to prove that. But, I think that, I often joke with our coaches that I think that technology has saved marriages, relationships, and coaching, simply because it's been able to, coaches have been able to utilize their time a little more efficiently. I think back to when Huddle, what we use for our video technology, that changed the landscape of the number of hours you spend at the office. I was able to come home, have dinner with the family, help put the kids to bed, wife goes to bed, I stay up and go to work at that point, because I was able to do that from home, on a computer, on the cell phone. Kids now, they have access, as soon as the game's over, they have access to the game film they just played in. Within 15, 20 minutes after they're done, they can get on their phone and see how they played. Communication between coaches and our student athletes has improved just because of technology. And so on Friday nights, UIL has just approved with this past season of just the use of in-game technology, which years ago that would have never been allowed. And so it has made coaches just have the ability to just be more efficient with their work.
You wanted to add something?
No, I was moving my hair.
Oh, you were moving your hair. I thought you wanted to add something. Let's talk now about the growth in this community, the schools. We're going to talk about the bonds a little bit here now. New schools being built. That's got to be exciting. We've seen the transition in the video that we saw earlier about how we've grown already and now where we're going. What are you most excited about, and tell us what this means in your eyes for the city of Midland?
Yeah, so the Bond 2023 was something that was a long time coming. Tina and Stan had a big part in that and did a great job helping us get that passed, and the community in general. For me, having been in this community for so many years and having been at the freshman school and the senior high school, the junior highs, I believe grade reconfiguration is the single most important thing. The facilities, absolutely, but the facilities are what allow us to reconfigure our grades. It's going to allow us to move our sixth graders up to our middle schools. We'll have 6 middle schools instead of 4. Beginning band, we don't have beginning band right now. So a sixth grader moves to Midland from somewhere else in the state, and they're coming from a middle school, and we put them back in elementary school, and they have no electives, and that's something that is a big barrier to getting students ready for that secondary experience. Then in 9th grade, they're at the freshman school, and while our freshman schools do a great job, there's a bit of disconnect in that true high school experience. And so even though a couple of years ago we started really changing the way we approach that, if you're a 9th grader, you're still eligible for everything that happens at the high school. We're having to bus back and forth every morning, every afternoon. And so that grade reconfiguration, that allows us to be more efficient as well. We have a lot of resources and people tied up back and forth between the freshman schools and the senior high schools right now. We have fine arts teachers that try to go to 24 elementary schools to work with 6th graders versus having fine arts teachers at middle schools. The facilities are going to be game changing for us. The 2 new high schools, if you drive by, you see those coming along. I believe that from a recruitment and retention perspective, if I'm moving into the area and I drive around, within a 50-mile radius, I'm going to notice those 2 new high schools, sure, and I'm going to want to teach at those.
Sure. You guys both worked on it.
Yes. And I think one of the most important things on the bond when we were trying to get people out to vote was that we really targeted the younger demographics in Midland. Because traditionally in Midland, I was born and raised in Midland, bonds don't pass. Everybody has an agenda, and it's the older demographics that usually go out and vote. So we really concentrated, and it was a concentrated effort, and it was due to our support from Pioneer, from Pro Petro, from Diamondback, from companies like that had a lot of employees in the area that were younger, that had school kids. We really targeted those people. Sam Sledge at Pro Petro was, he's one of the larger employers here. Even though he might have kids that go to a private school, most of his employees' kids go to public school. And he knows the value of having good schools and new schools for those kids to go to. And we couldn't have done it without those companies really giving us the support that they did and really helping us reach that younger demographic, that 30 to 45-year-old, those parents that have kids in school. And it's going to be exciting. I know it was exciting when our elementary schools opened up. When those kids that have been going to the current schools get to walk into those new buildings, they can't help but be excited. There's going to be so many new little things there. It's like moving into a new house when you've lived in an old house your whole life. And it's just the updates that have happened in 70 years with all the appliances and everything. And I think it's going to be an exciting time for Midland, for the kids in Midland, the athletics, the fine arts that it's going to offer. It's going to be an exciting time, and I'm proud that we had that opportunity.
And some of those donors, by the way, are here with us and watching right now, so
Yes.
thank you. Did you want to add something too?
Just that age group, the 30 to 40, I mean, probably 25 and up, they really supported us, and it was them that went out to vote, and they were the ones who wanted this to pass because they've seen what their kids are going to.
When I want to add to that because, and ConocoPhillips, Chevron, they're here. They also were big supporters. But one thing that we were all at the high schools. All of us were at the high schools at some point here. And when our families would get to the high schools, they would say, we need new high schools. Well, it's too late then. And so to their point, we talked to the families that had kids that would be in the high schools when these schools would be built. By the time we got our kids in high schools, everybody agreed we have to have better facilities. You know, we're sharing, Midland High is a gym and a half for 2,700 students, and you know, sharing classrooms. And so there was never a problem convincing the ones who had kids in high school at the time. It was convincing people early enough to get those high schools built.
More work for you? Is that okay?
Bring it on. You know, it's great to be able to say, like, hey, we have 360 kids in band now, and so we need to have this many instruments, but you know, we'll never say no to children.
Okay. Everybody's ready for the growth? Now everybody's ready? We're running short on time, but is everybody ready?
Absolutely.
Yes?
Yes.
Wes?
I think it's going to be great for Midland.
Me too.
Okay. All right. We are running short on time. I want to thank all of you, first off, for sharing your insight. Again, you can watch this, if you will. There'll be 4 other episodes or 3 other episodes that we will air as well. That concludes tonight's Town Hall on Teaching for Tomorrow for Midland ISD. As we said, it is a 4-part documentary tonight. You saw the first one. I'd like to thank our sponsors once again. They include Alyssa Wagner. We want to thank Diamondback Energy. We want to thank the Midland Education Foundation. Audience, y'all can applaud for those folks if you'd like to. ConocoPhillips, Community National Bank, and certainly we want to thank our guests. Dr. Stephanie Howard, thank you so much. Wes Torres, we want to thank you as well. Bo Garza, thank you so much. Tina Ortez, thank you so much for your insight. Stan, thank you so much as well. And I'd also like to thank our folks here and our that have put this on, because A, they're having to make sure that we all get on, but also put up with me, and I thank you all for doing that. We also want to thank our Basin PBS viewers and members. And if you're not a member, let me remind you, if you'd like to become one, it is very easy. This is how you do it. Visit basinpbs.org for more information. You can also check your local listings for dates and times of the next episode of Teaching for Tomorrow. That is a Midland ISD documentary. So we hope you've enjoyed what we brought you tonight. Thank you all for your insight. I am Jay Hendricks with First Alert 7. On behalf of the Basin PBS board, our staff and crew back there, they deserve a round of applause, by the way. Thanks for doing this. I want to say thank you and good night to you all.